Sometimes the OG cryptocurrencies, the blockchains that have been around for a while, that have been rebranding several times, suddenly start rallying. And Mantle is in that camp. The question is, can the current rally continue? Who's currently buying? Who's selling? Let's have a look at the on-chain data. Let's try to figure out whether or not it still makes sense to buy Mantle now. Because this is where we are today. We are finally above $1 again. $1.03 to be more exact, and the price appreciated by almost 80% in the last month. Mantle is the 29th largest blockchain in terms of its decentralized finance total value locked. So how much capital is in decentralized finance on the blockchain? There are many blockchains that are much larger than Mantle, but that might be a reason to buy because we want to get upside. We don't want to just buy a cryptocurrency that makes maybe 5 or 10% per year. We want to get the multiple X returns. And Ethereum might not have as much upside anymore given its market cap, at least compared to Mantle. That's the idea. Now here's the thing, the current momentum around Mantle is not that positive. Here's the total value locked over time. So at the peak, the blockchain had more than 600 million of total value locked. Now that shrank down to 240 million. The question is this just short-term volatility? Is this maybe caused by the MNT token itself going down? Or is this actually a problem with adoption? Now, when we look at the Mantle total value locked in MNT, we see this is not just price fluctuation. There was actually a peak in usage in 2024. It's not just the total value locked that peaked, it's also the app revenue or the activity on chain that declined. There was a spike in November of 2024, but since then it went down quite a lot. Here's the number of transactions over time, long term, and again, it's not necessarily clear that there's real growth. The chart starts in July of 2023. And there was a lot of activity at the beginning of 2024, but since then we are just hovering along. Now Mantle used to have a different name, and that was BitDAO. BitDAO converted to Mantle with a one-on-one migration. And so the long-term Mantle chart only shows us half of the picture. The long-term BitDAO chart shows us actually what happened over the course of the years. BitDAO used to be at close to $3. And again, now it's at $1. This here is the recent rally. This is Mantle versus Ethereum, and there seems to be a pretty clear floor over time. The floor becomes even more clear once we look at BitDAO relative to Ethereum. We seem to be bottoming out at very similar levels, and yet again we have seen a bottom right around the level where BitDAO historically bottomed out. Now, isn't it fascinating how we sometimes see those spikes in the price? Where do they come from? Within the circle of active traders, those spikes are called scam spikes. And the reason is they tend to be short-term price manipulation to liquidate the shorts, to liquidate the traders that are betting on falling prices of Mantle or BitDAO in this case. So the price shoots up and liquidates all the shorts, they lose all their money to then come back down to reality. And those spikes can be very, very large. This is 670%. Every single person that bet on falling prices of Mantle at the time lost their entire capital. And it happened several times in a row. It seems to be comparatively safe to buy the floors. It doesn't seem as safe to short the tops, again, because of that manipulation. If you shorted over here and then you got squeezed because of manipulation, you very likely lost everything. This is a rally of more than 200%. And so it's kind of fascinating when we look at the trading volume of Mantle that we actually see more trading volume on the spot market than on the perpetual futures market. At least that's true for the last 24 hours. This is of course different during a short squeeze. But right now, the most liquid exchange is Bybit with 268 million worth of trading volume in the last 24 hours. Compare this with the perpetual futures market. This is also dominated by Bybit, but over here we only had 140 million. Still, it's worth looking at the perpetual futures market because most people tend to bet on rising prices of Mantle most of the time. So the longs are willing to pay the shorts to get more positive price exposure. With the recent rally in Mantle, the open interest has gone up massively. Open interest is the measure of how many bets are currently being made on the price. When this is very high, it means that there's a lot of speculation around the asset. It means that there's also a lot of short-term leverage in the price, especially if the funding rate is positive. So currently there's a lot of short-term capital in the asset, which might deflate over time. Short-term leverage comes in and out of the asset, and the Mantle price tends to move with that leverage. And as we see a deleveraging, as we did in the past, we will also see the price coming down. So the open interest tells a different story compared to the relative valuation chart, because according to that chart, we might still have another 60, potentially 80% outperformance versus Ethereum. But the short-term leverage tells a different story, right? This tells us that we might turn around relatively quickly. The trading volume on the perpetual futures market says the exact same thing. Trading volume is pretty high, and there is a correlation between trading volume and price. With the recent rally, many shorts got liquidated, but as already mentioned, the vast majority of short-term traders are betting on rising prices. Betting on falling prices of Mantle is a bad idea. Betting on rising prices when we are close to the historical bottom is a good idea. But can we still see the historical outperformance? That's the big question. We sometimes did turn around midway and we didn't hit the upper band at those levels. That's a quite risky proposition. The general problem with crypto as a whole is that there's more and more token emissions. So a lot of projects launch and the founders want to pay themselves. The early investors, the venture capitalists want to pay themselves. Maybe there was also some marketing expenses. So some YouTubers might get an allocation and then sell the token. And the retail investors have to support all of that selling for the prices to stay stable. This here is the weekly token emissions of the entire altcoin market that's tracked on this website, Tokenomics.ai. And it's pretty much above $600 or at least $500 million every single week. If the inflows into crypto are slower than that, then the altcoins have to go down, at least relatively speaking. For example, have a look at this here. This is the DeFi protocol 1inch. So it's a decentralized exchange aggregator. It got a lot of usage in the past. But the problem is that the circulating supply grew massively as well, right? From 100 million to now 1.4 billion. And that then leads to 1inch doing much worse than Bitcoin or Ethereum. This is 1inch relative to Ethereum. Or have a look at this. This is Optimism, right? A leading layer 2 scaling solution on top of Ethereum. It started out with 214 million tokens and it's now at 1.6 billion tokens. And that's the long-term chart relative to Ethereum. And so there are several consequences from this, right? We cannot afford to own a lot of different altcoins because the vast majority of altcoins underperforms Bitcoin and Ethereum most of the time because of that token inflation. But also picking a single winner here and there is very hard because, again, most tokens do worse. So it's like picking the needle in a haystack. Some people simply just stick with Bitcoin, Ethereum and Solana then and forget the rest of the altcoin market. But I actually think there's an opportunity here because if we have constant underperformance, we can bet on that. We can bet on the underperformance to continue and make money from that. So instead of getting this performance by buying 1inch, we flip this around. We bet on falling prices of 1inch and bet on rising prices of Ethereum at the same time. So this is the same chart, just flipped. And this is simply using decentralized finance to do exactly that setup. We are betting on Ethereum to outperform 1inch. Same here for Optimism, right? Instead of buying Optimism, we are just betting on falling prices of Optimism relative to Ethereum. So in the last year, that position performed 150% roughly. Now try to make 150% in a year just by plain simply buying an altcoin. It's much easier said than done. Yes, there are some outliers. There is this Aerobot and this DRGN and this SNSY token, but the vast majority of altcoins is just going down. And so instead of trying to find the next Aerobot, I think it's better to just flip this around and everything that's red becomes green and everything that's green becomes red. So then we've got the odds in our favor. We don't try to pick the needle in the haystack. Instead, we bet on the haystack, on the vast majority to do poorly. And again, there is a fundamental reason for that underperformance, right? It's all of those insiders selling all the time. The venture capitalists, the team, etc. Maybe even the users of the platform that get incentivized in tokens to use the platform. Have a look at the altcoin market cap relative to Bitcoin in the last 3.5 years. It underperformed by 75%. And if you flip that around, we've got an outperformance of almost 300%. So this is now Bitcoin divided by the altcoin market cap. I'm following this strategy already for quite a while. What we see over here is my portfolio performance in the last 4 years roughly relative to had I just dollar cost average into Bitcoin. So the Bitcoin dollar cost averaging is in gray and my portfolio line is that one in black. This is monthly data out of my personal Excel sheet. We're now at month 44. I did this mainly with borrowing and lending platforms like Aave and Venus Finance, but recently I changed to perpetual futures and this is even more productive. I started the test 2.5 months ago with 40k and that turned into 60k, again just in 2.5 months. And so the premium members of this channel asked me, is there maybe a way we can just provide some capital to you and you do those relative valuation trades for us? And so I opened just that. It started 6 days ago, so there's no real sample size yet, but so far it has made 3.5%. I'm happy if we do 10% per month. I don't think we'll make 50% in 2.5 months again. But in general, we are moving in the right direction. And again, it makes a lot of sense, right? Most altcoins do worse than Bitcoin or Ethereum. We don't really have to be that scientific about it. If you want to learn how to become a winner in crypto and how to set up those relative valuation trades, where then the VCs and the insiders don't dump on you, but you're actually making money when they are dumping, then feel free to check out all of those tutorial videos, right? There's more than 100 tutorial videos in premium. I'm of course sharing my own trades as well, and then you can simply copy trade and take advantage of those trades as well. There are many opportunities out there, so feel free to check out the community as well. And so if you're an active trader, you can simply sign up for the monthly membership. It's $125 per month. You can watch all the tutorials, you can copy trade me as well. And once you're joining, I will also share my favorite trade. And if that favorite trade doesn't make you money in the first month, I will refund you 100% of that membership fee. So really, you don't really have a risk of joining here. You're either making your money back or it's for free for you. If you are not an active trader though, and you simply just want to allocate capital, you've got more capital than time, then you can sign up for the annual membership. Here you also get 2 months for free, so $250. And with the annual membership, you also get access to the automated copy trading feature, where you can simply just send money to Hyperliquid. So that's the platform that I'm using. And you get the exact same trading performance that I'm getting as well. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time on YouTube or see you in premium. Cheers.